Hi guys, so in today's video we're going to be talking about DNA fingerprinting. We're going to be using gel electrophoresis in this example, and a simple explanation of this is that DNA is injected into this gel and the DNA is separated by size. DNA is positively charged and it's pulling it to the positively charged end. Smaller fragments move fast and bigger fragments move slow. So people will have different patterns of DNA fragments, and this is unique to each individual. We're going to use the game Clue to solve a murder mystery in this example. The victim is sadly Colonel Mustard. He's been hit in the head with a candlestick in the conservatory. However, lucky for us, someone left DNA on the candlestick. There are 4 other people in the house besides Colonel Mustard. Here are the DNA samples we've collected and their results. Now, to convict somebody, their DNA fragments have to line up exactly with those found at the scene at both loci. So we've looked at 2 loci on these DNA samples. First, let's make sure it's not the victim's DNA. So, the DNA found at the scene, I've added these gray lines in just so we can visualize where the fragments are. This DNA is not, we can exclude Colonel Mustard, the victim, because his fragments do not line up with those found at the scene. Now it could be Miss Scarlett's DNA, as it lines up exactly with the DNA found at the scene. Also, Miss Peacock is Miss Scarlett's biological mother, and we can see that because a child gets half of their DNA from their father and half of it from their mother. And you can see Miss Peacock has one fragment aligning with Miss Scarlett, but one doesn't. And we'll see on the next loci that they have another one lining up too. It cannot be Miss Peacock's DNA because, again, her DNA fragments do not line up with the DNA found at the scene. It could be Professor Plum. His fragments do line up. And then it couldn't be Miss White because, again, her fragments do not line up with those found at the scene. Before we get into the suspects again, Miss Scarlett and Miss Peacock, since they're biologically mother and daughter, have another fragment of DNA that lines up, and the other one doesn't for them, but that's fine because that's where the father's DNA comes in, so Miss Scarlett has half of that from their father. And so anyways, continuing on with the suspects. So Miss Scarlett's DNA fragments do not line up on the second loci. However, Professor Plum's do, and so do Mrs. White's. However, Miss White has already been excluded from the first loci, so our murderer has to be Professor Plum. So thank you for solving this mystery with me.